Hello everyone, I hope you're doing okay. You would not believe what happened. So the last video that I uploaded was chapter 8. I accidentally labeled it chapter 9 on YouTube, but I fixed that. And then I recorded chapter 9. I recorded it maybe about an hour or so ago and got ready to upload it to YouTube and double checked it, and the video was 4 seconds long. So I have absolutely no idea what happened. So I've already read chapter 9 and thought I recorded it, but apparently I didn't. So I'm rereading it again. So it happens. Have you ever done that before? You did something and you thought you did it and you didn't, so then you had to redo it. So it happens. So we are going to read chapter 9. So the last video we read chapter 8, which was called The President. And okay, now the lighting is starting to get a little darker, which means I'm definitely going to wear my glasses. All right, so Alan writes a letter to the president, hoping to meet him. Explains, gives him a little bit of a hint as to what his research project is, that he can help stop world starvation. His parents they're not sure what to do at this point, so they invite a doctor to come over to talk to him. And he thinks that Alan, he thinks it's all in his head. He says, you're a plant because you think you're a plant, not because you really are a plant, only because you think you're a plant. So, and then at the very end of the chapter, the dad says, I'm done with this. There's absolutely no one that could tell me that you're a plant and prove that you're a plant. And I wouldn't believe anyone. I wouldn't even believe the president of the United States. If he said that you were a plant, I wouldn't believe him. It wouldn't prove anything. And then the very last line is, there's a telegram, and the mom goes, it's a telegram from the President of the United States. So, and the next chapter, chapter 9, is Top Secret. So, that's where we're going to start. Oh, it makes it easier. Okay, chapter 9, Top Secret. Things happen so quickly after that it's hard for me to remember everything. The telegram said a car would pick me up at 3 that afternoon. I explained all about my letter to my folks. They didn't say much. They were stunned. At 10 minutes after 3, a brown car arrived with 2 men in it. Both men were tall and had dark hair. They both wore suits. They both had on sunglasses. You know, all the men that are with the president, they always have sunglasses on. They drove me to the Plaza Hotel. We rode the elevator together to the penthouse. No one said a word. Okay, so this is a word called penthouse. It's a compound word. And a penthouse is the very top floor. So in an apartment building or in a hotel, the very top floor, that's known as the penthouse floor. And there's usually just one room up there or one apartment up there, and that's known as the penthouse. And it's the very top one. It's usually the biggest one in the building, and it's the most expensive. So it's always the nicest one. So that's where they're headed, to the penthouse. Inside the penthouse, I was met by a white-haired man who looked very disappointed. Why, you're just a boy, he said, and a green boy at that. Whoever this man was, he was not the President of the United States. I'm sorry, sir, I said, but I was afraid that if the president knew my age, he wouldn't want to see me. The white-haired man thought for a moment, and I noticed several rows of wrinkles appear on his forehead. You're right, he said, he wouldn't have. I didn't lie, sir. If the president would have asked me, I would have told him how old I was. It was just that... The man waved his hand, indicating that he didn't want to discuss the matter any further. I'm impressed with your cleverness. I smiled. So was I. May I see the president now? I asked. He's not here. What? The president had to return to Washington. He has a country to run, you know. But don't worry. I'm one of the president's chief advisors. Name's Kirby, by the way. We shook hands, and Mr. Kirby led me into the penthouse living room, which had a blue rug, white furniture, and red drapes. The view was breathtaking. The president, continued Mr. Kirby, has given me strict orders to treat you with the utmost respect. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, even if you are only a boy. I know about strict orders, I laughed. Mr. Kirby, I know about strict orders, I laughed. Mr. Kirby didn't. In your letter, said Mr. Kirby, relaxing on one of the white couches, You mentioned something about a discovery that would end world starvation. Was that the truth, or were you just being clever again?" "It was the honest truth, sir. I swear it." Mr. Kirby gave me a long look, and the wrinkles on his forehead appeared again. "I'm curious how a boy your age would approach the problem." He motioned toward an overstuffed easy chair. "Have a seat and tell me about it." I talked with the president's advisor for a whole hour. I told him all about my discovery, and about Miss Green and the silver trophy, and about my parents and Dr. Wiedemeyer, and the fact that nobody believed me except for Grandpa. "I don't expect you to believe me either, sir. Not without proof. But I think I figured out a way to prove it." "How's that?" Mr. Kirby looked at me without blinking. "You can watch me," I told him, "for a week, a month, however long it takes. I won't eat anything, nothing at all except water and sunlight. Have a doctor examine me every day. You'll see I'll stay healthy without eating. And if it works, then it'll work for all the starving people in the world. What do you think?" Mr. Kirby sat motionless for a moment. Then he sprang off the couch and went into another room, where I saw him make a phone call, although I couldn't hear what he said. When he came back into the room, he looked very serious. "The president says it's a go." "All right." At first, my dad said no to the whole deal, but after he received a personal phone call from the president, he changed his mind. The next 10 days went by really fast. I stayed there at the hotel with Mr. Kirby. We went swimming every day and had long talks and watched TV in the evenings. The president's advisor liked monster movies, just like Grandpa. Just before I went to bed every night, I was examined by a team of doctors. It was really fun. They would do all kinds of tests, muttering to themselves things like, "Amazing," or "I can't believe it." They also asked me lots of questions about my discovery, like what kind of peanut butter did I use? Was it creamy style or crunchy? What kind of fish did my dad have in his saltwater aquarium? Do you guys remember the saltwater that he used? He got it out of his dad's saltwater aquarium with the fish in it. Kind of forgot about that. You should have seen their faces when I told them that one of the ingredients I used was liver. "How could you drink it?" one of the doctors asked, his face all twisted out of shape. "It was rough," I told him. The doctors told me that they had their computers working 24 hours a day, trying different combinations of my ingredients, hoping to duplicate my experiment. The whole thing reminded me of Grandpa's story about the cheese sandwich and the vat of gold. At the end of 10 days, during which time I had 0 to eat except water, I declined any fertilizer, the president's advisor called off the test. He didn't look very happy when we met together to talk, so I asked him, "What's wrong? I proved it, didn't I?" Mr. Kirby didn't answer me right away. Instead, he handed me 2 small white pills and a glass of water. "Take one of these, Alan," he said, "and in the morning take the second one if you have to." "What are the pills for?" "They'll change you back to normal. Our computers figured out it's simply a matter of increasing the red blood cells until the effect of the magnesium is neutralized." "Then I did prove it, didn't I?" "I can't tell you that." "What do you mean you can't tell me?" "The discovery of human photosynthesis has been classified top secret, which means that any unauthorized disclosure could result in grave danger to the nation." "I don't understand, Mr. Kirby." "What I'm saying, Alan, is that your discovery is considered very, very important to the safety of the country. So important that only certain people are allowed to know whether it really works or not. And I'm afraid you are not one of them." "But it was my idea." "Not anymore, Alan. Now it belongs to the government." I was more confused than ever. "My discovery will end world starvation. Isn't that a good thing?" "Yes, it is, but there are many bad things about your discovery." "Like what? How could a discovery be bad?" I wondered. "For one thing," answered Mr. Kirby, "it would bring on the collapse of the entire economy. Businesses would go broke, and millions of people would lose their jobs." "Why?" "Because if people don't have to eat, then there would be no need for food. And did you know, Alan, that the food industry is the largest industry in the country?" "No, I didn't." "Your discovery would put all the farmers out of work, and all the cattlemen, and the fishermen, and all the people who process food and package it and transport it to the grocery stores, not to mention all the grocery stores and restaurants and hamburger stands." There would be no need for bread or milk or fruit or vegetables or lunch pails or thermos bottles or even toothpicks. Toothpicks? If people don't eat, then they won't get food stuck in their teeth now, will they? I didn't realize, he said. But couldn't all these people find something else to do? That's the second thing wrong with your discovery, said the president's advisor. One of the main reasons people work is because they have to eat. With your discovery, people would stop working. And if no one works, then how is the government going to stay in business? The government needs to tax people who work. That's how it gets its money. But if no one works, how could the government earn its money the way couldn't the government earn its money the way other people do? Don't be ridiculous, Mr. Kirby laughed. What would you have us do? Sell vacuum cleaners? Sure, if that'll keep people from starving. Mr. Kirby looked at me as if he had just been hit in the head by a spitwad. I'm sorry, Alan, but my orders come from the president himself. Your discovery is to be considered top secret. You must promise that you will never tell anyone how you did it. But what about my parents and Miss Green? No one. Do I have your promise? I looked at the floor. Yes, I said, I promise. And that is the end of chapter 9. So, he doesn't meet the president, but he does meet with his advisor. And my cat was scratching at the door again. He doesn't meet with the president, but he meets with the president's advisor. And he says, I can prove it. Look, you can do experiments on me and figure out what it is. So all these scientists are looking at him, trying to figure out what he did, how he's different. They tried to duplicate the drink that he made. Remember, it's been a few chapters back. Remember, he put peanut butter in there and salt water from the fish tank, and I think he put nuts in there, and of course the liver. There at the very end, they decide that it's a great idea, but it's just not going to work. And so they give him 2 pills to counteract the effect of the magnesium, so they can go back to normal again. And then they label it top secret. Can't talk about it. It's a government top secret. So the question is, did it work? Did the human photosynthesis work? Did he discover it? And they're like, we can't tell you. So what do you think? Do you think it worked? All right, well, that's the end of chapter 9. The next chapter is chapter 10, the science fair. And if you remember, this went all the way back to the beginning. It started off with him going to school, and it was the science fair. So he wanted to do human photosynthesis as his project, and Miss Green said, no, you will do your project on lipstick. So the question is, what do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's going to do his project on lipstick? We'll have to wait and see. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye.